Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jeff Galino, strong and uninformed opinions. Gotta apologize. I've got a little bit of, as my grandma used to say, a frog in my throat. Haven't been feeling the best the last couple of days, but has anyone been feeling great? I don't know. I feel like everybody is kind of just a miserable piece of shit lately. It's not like anything that's happening around us is helping, but nobody seems to be in a good mood lately. And here in Arizona, it's starting to get hot out and it's only going to get worse. People get absolutely insane the hotter it gets. I need to become a snowbird. That's the only solution for me is I need to live here for 7 months of the year, and then the rest of the year I need to go somewhere else. All right, but enough about me, enough about being sick. Let's get into it real quick. So, I don't know. Did anyone catch the fact that Trump actually said that he is thinking about raising taxes on the top brackets of income earners? So everybody shut the fuck up, okay? I am sick and tired of everybody with this eat the rich attitude and all that stuff. Just because somebody makes more money than you doesn't mean they owe you a fucking thing, okay? The truth of the matter is that 80% of the taxes are paid by the rich people, okay? The rest of us pay 20% of the taxes that this government brings in, income tax, okay? Now, in our 20% that we bring in to the federal government, we demand every type of service under the sun. We want free school, we want this, we want that. Plus, we're always bitching about our fucking tax returns. So just remember, the people that are paying for you to live in this society are basically the people that you're just screaming need to pay more money. Now, I think we need to acknowledge that maybe they should pay a little bit more money. But to just expect those people to have to pay for your shit, that's where you're fucking up, okay? Now, here's the thing. They're making money, just like the tariffs. They're making money in the biggest economy in the world. So maybe they should have to pay to play, just like how Trump is saying that if you want to sell your shit in this country, you've got to pay a tariff, okay? Or you let us sell our shit in your country. Works both ways. I would say it's the exact same situation. If you want to make a ton of money in America, that just means you got to pay to play. And what does it mean to pay to play? It means that you're going to have to pay a little bit more in income taxes, okay? I do not think that taxing the people who actually contribute the most to the economy, money-wise, not effort and work and all that stuff, but money-wise, taxing them more is just not the answer. So this fucking constant, like, raise taxes on the rich, you don't get how this whole thing works, okay? Now, if you want to change the system, then I'm not listening at all because I am actually a capitalist. I actually think that America, in theory, is fantastic. I just don't think it's being implemented very well. That's another whole discussion. We will get into that a little bit later, though. Now, here's the thing. Trump is talking about raising the top income earners' tax rate to 40%. Now, everyone also needs to remember that this is just income tax. When you add in also like property taxes, payroll taxes, sales tax, all of these things, your tax rate is actually much higher than what your income tax rate is. So the average person, I want to say, for every dollar that they spend, it's something like 15 to 20 cents of that dollar is actually taxed in one way or another, not just net income tax, okay? So when you think of it like that, for the amount of taxes that we pay, what the fuck are we actually getting out of that? You could say, roads and all that, but that stuff is local taxes. So that's your property taxes, okay? Now, I've heard people recently complain about the fact that you can lose your house even though you've already paid for it by not paying your property taxes. And yes, that is true, but that is a very long process. First off, it's not like you don't pay your property taxes and the next day you lose your house. That's not really how that works. So you have plenty of chances to actually catch up on property taxes. But if that's the one where if you're going to live in a society and especially in your local community, you have to pay into something. Like we need cops, we need firefighters, we need all of these services. It's only on the federal level where I start to have a huge fucking problem with, they're spending our money on God knows what. I've said this a million times, $36 trillion in debt. We should all have free healthcare. We should all have free college. We should be walking around and the streets should literally be paved with gold. And there shouldn't be potholes. There should be high-speed trains. This country should be the shit for the amount of money that we spend. Excuse me, spent that we didn't have. Okay. So how is lowering taxes on people going to help, us being so in debt? Well, here's the thing. Like I said, 80% of the taxes that are brought in are paid by the top earners. So if you raise the taxes a little bit on the top earners, Doge does its job and cuts government waste. So you're cutting spending, you're keeping revenues from taxes about the same just because you're raising it on the top income earners who are paying 80% anyway. Okay. So you're keeping the revenues about the same. You're lowering tax rates for everyone below the top earners. And that's how you make up for that. Doge savings. So you're cutting down on spending. Revenues are about the same. Now you add in the money that we bring in from tariffs. Now, if we do this right, and Trump has actually said this, if we do this right, there's a very good chance that everyone making less than $150,000 a year will end up paying zero income tax. Could you imagine that? Could you imagine not having to pay income tax? That would be the greatest stimulus this country has ever seen. The middle class and everybody who is making not as much money as like the Jeff Bezos and the fucking Elon Musk, able to keep 100% of what they make. So you're going to work and busting your ass and you actually get to keep all that money. My God. It's almost too great to even think about. But Trump has an actual plan of where we might be able to get there. And holy shit, you want to talk about boom times? Think about every time you get your paycheck and how much money they take out. And then think about the fact that they wouldn't take any of that out. Holy crap, dude. Everyone's pay would go up. So, I mean, the whole idea of like nobody's getting paid enough and all that stuff, it's basically everybody in the country would get a massive pay raise of at least 15 to 25%, sometimes 30. And then everybody who is making more than $150,000, your taxes go up a little bit. But you're also making a ton of money in the greatest economy in the world. And all the people who are in that great economy just got a huge pay raise. So you'll make more money. So yeah, you're going to have to pay more in taxes. So what? You will make more money because the rest of us have more money to spend. I don't know. If this happens, this may be one of the best things in modern history that has happened to the economy in the United States. I'm just saying. So let's get, since we're talking about the economy, let's talk about the tariffs. I know everyone's fucking sick and tired of talking about tariffs, but if you've been watching the show, you've heard me talk about the fact that I thought from the beginning that this was all just a play against China. And I think I'm right. Not to say I told you so, but if you watch what's happening, it is all about China. And I think what it was is, and I've had this talk with other people before, I think Trump had to create chaos. He had to make China think that the rest of the world was going to turn on us or hate us. And they might. I don't know. But you had to create the chaos for China to spring the trap, basically. Because now China is trapped, okay? China basically totally took the bait. They think that the rest of the world hates us, and boom, now's the time to get back at America. Except that's not what's happening. Remember what I said? The very first person who came to the White House was the Prime Minister of India. Well, they just announced that they have a framework already worked up with India about a trade agreement. I'm telling you right now, what that trade agreement is going to look like is they are going to move a ton of manufacturing to India, just cutting China out completely. Okay. Now, another thing where we talk about like the whole like, oh, it's going to bring jobs back to America. Yes, but I think it's going to be sector by sector. We're not going to have plants that are making textiles. Like we're not going to have a boom. We'll get some, but it's not going to be just like China where there's going to be like hundreds of factories making t-shirts and dish towels and just USB cords and stuff like that. That's not going to happen. But by disrupting trade like this, we now have the ability to say, okay, we are going to have most of those things made over here. We're going to have these other things made over there. We're going to have these things made over there. And then we can decide what industries to bring back to America. So AI, tech, biotech, pharmaceuticals, the stuff that actually is going to be a good paying job, the stuff that actually is the wave of the future. So like all these Chinese memes that you're seeing in government propaganda that the Chinese government's putting out, where it's like fat Americans like, sewing things and shit like that. That's not at all what I think the end game is. The end game is to shift the jobs we want back to America and then sub out all those other things that we still need to all these other countries. I think that Malaysia is going to be one of them. I think Vietnam is going to be one of them. I think Cambodia, Taiwan, India. So, I mean, there's a lot of Turkey. I think Turkey is actually going to be one as well. So there's a lot of places that can fill the gap for China. And the truth is that it's a win-win for us from what I'm seeing. China is either going to have to play ball, in which case then it's free trade and it's fair trade, or they're going to stay dug in, and that is going to be a little bit more painful because it's not like these things are going to happen overnight. But China also can't afford this. They cannot afford, their entire economy is based on manufacturing. And think of it this way. If you owned a business and you were killing it, you were just making money hand over fist, and then just one day your biggest customer said, I'm not buying a fucking thing from you, your business would not last long. Or you would have to go and find another huge customer. And China tried to do that. China, when all this happened, the Xi Jinping, the leader of China or the Communist Party, went to all these countries like India, or he contacted India, but he went to like Vietnam and stuff, and they didn't bite. China tried to get them on their side, and China was like, nope. They know where their bread is buttered. Trump is right about one thing. We are the piggy bank. So like, it's not a surprise that these other countries are just like, nope, we got to side with the US. So, and it's not a done deal. Don't get me wrong. There could still be some major problems. But if you look, because that's what everyone's biggest problem is Trump doesn't have a plan. He's shooting from the hip. I don't think so, actually. I think he actually does have a fucking plan. I'm not sure about how he's implementing the plan. That seems a little like, remember, it's been 100 days. And more has happened in Trump's 100 days in office than whole presidencies. So I do think that's part of it too, though. I mean, he's had advisors who said you just flood the zone. You flood the zone with so much shit that nobody can really pay attention to anything. I mean, look at what happened with the fucking tariffs, okay? We went from burning Teslas and everyone hates Elon Musk to I haven't heard a fucking thing about Doge in weeks. And it's all because of China, dude. Americans have in some ways, that is one of the things that the Chinese memes were correct about. I don't know what the fuck is wrong with us as a society and people. Now, I can only base it off of what I'm seeing in front of me. And here's my segue into the next thing. What the fuck is wrong with us? Like, seriously, what is wrong with American culture? Like, we are the laziest, stupidest, short attention span people ever. And it pains me to say that. I'm not trying to talk shit about my own country, but I can't even handle half of the time having, which first off, good luck having a rational conversation. I had a conversation with a friend of mine from high school that I hadn't seen in a long time, and it was the most refreshing thing that had happened to me in weeks because it was actually like a real conversation. And that's another problem is that people, I've had lots of people tell me, why are you arguing with me? I don't even feel like I'm arguing. I talk loud and I use my hands and all this other shit, but dude, I'm not arguing. This is a discussion. And people don't even know how to do that anymore. They don't know how to have a fucking conversation about the world around them. That is insane to me, dude. Like, how do you, and then there's the people who don't have an opinion at all. And it's like, how do you not have a fucking opinion? You're just drifting through life, like not giving a shit at all. Dude, maybe I'm the stupid one. I mean, ignorance may be bliss. I wish I couldn't pay attention. Unfortunately, I'm not wired that way and I have to. And as soon as I pay attention, I have an opinion. And believe me, I'm going to tell you it. I could be completely wrong. It doesn't matter. I'm allowed to have an opinion. You're allowed to have an opinion. You should have a fucking opinion. We should talk about your opinion. We should talk about my opinion and then come to some sort of common ground. I cannot stand that even the media is constantly like, we're so divided, we're so divided, we're so divided. Are we? In my daily life, I don't have fucking problems with anyone. Now, there are random people, and it's actually on both sides. And I mean, there's not much I can do about if you're a complete sycophant and like tied to your party that you care so much about your party that you don't actually give a shit about the people you live with, which that's your own problem. But as many people have said, it's not America as a whole. It's the extremes. The extreme right is absolute idiots. The extreme left is complete morons. These are the ones who are controlling the conversation. And honestly, the people in the middle need to step up and tell both of them to shut the fuck up. I think that is really why Trump won. It's not that people like Trump. I don't think anyone likes Trump. I take that back. There are people who like Trump. But I think that the middle doesn't like Trump. They like that he's not this thing that has been going on for God knows how long. He's anti-establishment. I don't think it mattered who ran. As long as they were anti-establishment, they were going to win. And I've said this to people before, like, I have no loyalty to Trump. I don't give a shit. It could literally be a dog using AI barking out these policies. And as long as I agree with the policy, I'm on board. And unfortunately, I agree with a lot of Trump's policies. I do not always agree with how he implements them, but I agree with a lot of Trump's policies. So I'm sorry. I don't think that makes me a MAGA or a Trump supporter. It's just some of what, and he said it himself. He always goes for the 80-20 like topics or whatever. You know, as long as it's populism, he's all for it. Well, I mean, I hate to say it, but I'm a human being in America. So I guess I fall into that 80%, and therefore I side with Trump or he sides with me. I don't fucking know. All I know is that America, get your fucking shit together, dude. You know, the other thing is like, what is going on with just our culture? You know, like, I have this conversation about, you know, because now I'm at the age where like people I went to high school are now having kids and stuff. And what are kids doing now? They don't do anything. I mean, half of the time you hear about how they just sit in their room and play video games. Most of them don't want to even get a driver's license. Most of them don't get jobs until they're like in their 20s. This is all insane to me. I don't understand when the idea of like the dignity of work and like the power of work. Like, no one remember how they felt like the first time they did a job well done? You went home and you were tired as fuck, but you were like, fuck yeah, I accomplished something. Or like when you do projects around the house or anything like that, you get things done and all of a sudden you're like, man, I feel good. I'm tired, but I feel really good. I handled a bunch of shit and I'm taking care of business, TCB. But I feel like kids don't have that experience anymore. And it's honestly the parents and society to blame. We allow that shit, dude. Like, what happened to you turned 18 and they kicked you the fuck out of the house? I'm not sure. I think that's child abuse now. I'm not sure that that's like a thing anymore. And here's the thing. If you're kicking your kids out of the house literally just because you're a piece of shit and you don't want to take care of your kid anymore, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when you hit 18, there were people in society who were like, hit the road, Jack. Time for you to make your way. And I don't think that happens anymore. And dude, we are creating kids that are so much worse off because of that. I had a customer not too long ago tell me, we were talking about kids and all, society now. And she literally said, I wish my kid would just do something wrong. And that's crazy to me too. Like, my parents were constantly like, will you please stop doing things you're not supposed to? Stop being bad. Don't steal the car. All these things, harmless stuff, but all these things. And now parents are wishing that kids would do that stuff because they are gaining no life experience. There's a lot of things I did that I very easily could have died. No joke. I remember very clearly going to Mexico and screaming at a guy who was probably in the cartel at a strip club, the owner of the strip club. And I'm just screaming at him, and I'm like 16 years old. And I mean, luckily the guy just kind of thought I was a moron, but I mean, I don't know, that could have gone south real quickly, but that's here nor there. That was in Rocky Point back in the day. Good times though. But staying on topic, excuse me, like I said, little frog in my throat. But I just saw a study where kids aren't drinking, kids aren't smoking, and a lot of kids aren't doing drugs anymore. And the ones who are doing drugs are not necessarily smoking weed. They're just jumping straight into like cocaine, hallucinogenics, and pills. That's not good. But I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying, like, I feel like the experiences that we went through when we were younger, my generation, people younger than me, even people through the 90s and 2000s, early 2000s, those experiences of fucking up and figuring it out are what make you resourceful. Kids nowadays, the littlest bump in the road and they're fucked. And of course, I'm painting everything with a broad brush. This is not everyone. I actually know some very capable, not even kids, young people. But I'm just saying as a whole, it seems fucked. Um, you know, just look at like our entertainment and like our need for social media and stuff like that. I took all of my social media off of my cell phone. I only have it on my iPad. So I can only use social media when I'm sitting somewhere and I've got internet. And I tell that to people and they're almost shocked. They're like, really? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, why? How? Especially in tattooing, which is really fucking weird. We have turned into content creators instead of pirates that we used to be, where we just didn't give a fuck and we were drawing on people and doing whatever the hell we wanted. The state of the tattoo industry is almost like, I think, going parallel with the state of society. It is all so washed out and none of it matters and none of it is dangerous. There is no pop culture like there used to be when I was a kid. There wasn't, everybody is into their own little like subsection of things now. There is no, where like we all found out down the road that we all really liked Escape from New York or Big Trouble in Little China. There is no like, I don't know what the right word is. There is no like subculture that we all commonly share. The subcultures are all shared right away now because you can find your clique online. That's not how it used to be. It took me forever to figure out my people. You know what I mean? Like the people I loved and like the people that I wanted to hang out with and who I felt most comfortable with. I don't think the kids even go through that anymore. I think it's, I'm a fucking, I'm into, I don't even know. I'm into like fucking anime. And that's just who I am. I found my group. I'm going that way. Okay. I mean, I went through so many phases. And do kids do that anymore? Like phases? Like I was a fucking heavy metal kid. Then I liked fucking hip hop. Then I liked punk. All those things came together to make me. I don't know. I just don't see it anymore. And the other thing that's crazy is like kids nowadays just don't know how to talk to people because of what I'm talking about. Like they're not very outgoing. You hear even like people on YouTube who have millions and millions of followers and are doing all these crazy things on the internet, but they have no social skills. They'll tell you straight up that they've got anxiety and all these things, but they're putting off a persona of like the most outgoing person in the world. That's just fucking weird. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I think there is something seriously wrong with American culture, and I don't know what it is. Okay. All I can say is I feel like we got to get our shit together. I don't know if anyone ever saw the show The White Lotus. It's actually a great show. Everyone should watch it. But in season 2, there was this douchebag guy who he was actually hired by his gay lover, uncle, I don't know what he was, to like keep this girl busy while these guys plotted her boss's murder. Not important, but he said something, even though he was a douchebag in the show, that really rang true to me. She was sitting there and she was all like, how could you say that? They're sitting somewhere in Italy and she's like, how could you say that the world is so fucked? And he looks at her and he's all like, I don't know. Seems like the world's pretty fucking great to me. We're living in the greatest country at the greatest time ever. Seems to me that if you can't be happy now, you just weren't meant to be happy. And something about that fucking rang super true to me. Like it seems like people just seem to forget like that how blessed we are, to use a stupid fucking, thing that everyone uses, but how blessed we are to live right now. Holy shit, we live now. Do you know what it was like living like 100, 200 years ago? You could die from scratching yourself on something and not getting an infection and dying because there's no antibiotics. I mean, we are literally living what people hundreds of years ago would think of as the fucking far out future, and we don't give a shit. We act like everything's an inconvenience. We act like our lives are so fucking hard. Are you out of your mind? Our lives are not fucking hard. I mean, that's just even like going back to like my grandparents. Their lives were fucking hard. My grandma used to say my grandma lived in a tenement building that didn't even have a fucking floor. It had one light bulb in it because they had access to electricity in one room, and they lived there with like 6 people. Okay, shut the fuck up. Your life isn't hard. I mean, what's hard about our lives when you have to get up and plug the fucking router back in so that way the internet restarts? Oh, poor us. So anyway, American culture, American society, and I don't know, is it like this around the world? It doesn't seem like it is. we really need to like look at ourselves in the fucking mirrors and realize, like, if our lives are that bad, maybe we are getting what we fucking deserve, because we're complaining about everything when it's not really a big fucking deal. I don't know. And then I'll get people who are all like, that's because you're privileged. And okay, I guess. I'm also just observant. Like, I just don't think that times are that bad. I think there's bad things going on all around us all the time. But in comparisons to the shit that's happened in the past, things are pretty great. That's my fucking opinion. I mean, I grew up in a household where we were lucky we had two TVs, and one of them was black and white. And that was like the extra TV. Okay, there's fucking I got like a TV in every fucking room. Now back to the whole idea of like I'm privileged, but I don't think so. I think that's how most fucking people are. Okay, so I just think that America needs to evaluate itself truthfully, just like Doge. We need to like dig deep down inside and get rid of all of the shit that doesn't matter and is holding us back and making things too fucking difficult. Because in reality, it's not all that difficult. Not to be not to be preaching to everyone. It's just these are my observations. Okay, so yeah, quick episode. Strong and uninformed opinions. We will see you guys later. Like, share, subscribe. Got a good amount of views on the last one. So I mean, it seems like people like this shit. So if you do, hit those buttons and shit. Do all the things you're supposed to do. Okay? And we'll see you next week. Who knows what will happen? I think I kind of know what will happen. I think they're going to announce some trade deals coming up here. And here's the other thing. I've been tiptoeing back into the stock market. For those of you that didn't sell, things are going to come back. For those of you that sold out, you might want to look at things. I'm not telling you to buy stuff, but I've definitely been buying some stuff on the cheap. You know, now everyone thought that fucking Tesla was dead. Tesla shot up like a rocket. Now, I'm not saying buy Tesla anymore right now. I'm just saying that everyone was waiting for the absolute worst case scenario. Tesla gave it. It wasn't good, but it wasn't the worst case scenario, and it fucking poop went right up. And that's what's going to happen with these trade stuff. Everyone is prepared for the absolute worst. And I don't think that's what's going to happen. All right. Until next time, people, you stay cool.